Let's go for the actual store. Europa, natural
Greetings, humanity, and welcome to Europa Natural Law, a round-table transmission dedicated to healing the madness, badness, and sadness plaguing our beautiful, bountiful world. Through regaining our sanity, reclaiming our inborn sovereignty, and honouring our inherent responsibility, we can improve reality. I'm Nemo Jones, reporting for Beauty, and I'm joined by
Derek Bartoluccelli. Bonjour.
Hey, I didn't really hear you there, Marcus, but I'm Oscar. Maybe it's just me and my connection.
Oh, sorry. Now, I'm Markus from the channel Red Lotus.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm Oscar here in Denmark. Good to be with you again, guys.
Absolutely. So welcome all of you. Thank you for being here. Right, and today we're going to attempt to answer the question, are we in a cult? And obviously this question could be understood a bunch of different ways, and I'm sure we're going to explore a lot of those ways. I think for me, the reason I wanted to talk about this, or what kind of inspired this topic, was because obviously we've been doing this for a little while, this show, and we've all kind of introduced ourselves, you know, when we first came on, but there's a sort of, I was thinking, well, I have this kind of thought, well, if I was watching this show, what would it's like, where are these guys coming from? Like, what is it that brings us together? Why are we here? You know, are they in a cult or something? What's happening here? And there's also an aspect, which is that we've all referred to Mark Passio occasionally. And so there's this question of the cult of personality, you know, and obviously, you know, a lot of people have never heard of Mark Passio. In the link, the description for the video, there's always a link there for his natural law seminar, which I think has certainly inspired and informed all of us, I'd say, being quite a central kind of thing. So for me, that's kind of what I really wanted to address, is this kind of this idea that there's a kind of, is there like a guru sort of thing in the background that we sort of all gathered round, you know? And for me, I'm just going to talk personally. I've been looking for you know, teachers for all of my life. I haven't really been particularly lucky really with teachers, you know, even in school. I didn't have like really, I never really felt particularly inspired by teachers. That, you know, I did a lot of learning on my own. And as I became sort of more philosophical as I grew older, I was always kind of, and when I first discovered Mark, I found him quite challenging, difficult, unlikable, really. And I mean, he's got, you know, a certain kind of charm for sure, but he's quite difficult as well, and quite off-putting in a way. But then I came back to, so I sort of think I left him. I think if my memory serves me, I'm pretty sure I watched the seminar, the natural law seminar, probably something like 2017, 18 maybe. And that was it. I was kind of like, okay, yeah. It didn't actually really impact me that strongly at the time. And then I came back to him, you know, in the last 3-4 years. And for me, he's just someone that's put stuff together in a certain way where it hits home so much that I kind of like that it's really given me energy. You know, it's actually kind of given me like a focus and an energy that I haven't really found anyone else that really comes close in terms of bringing so much together in such a cohesive way. And actually a while after I started the Telegram group that kind of has evolved into this show, I decided, well, I better put something up that kind of summarizes what the group is about. So I called it the Foundational Understandings of the Group. And I thought I'd just talk through those because for me, this is what I consider the sort of the most important, the sort of heart of, like, let's say, Mark's transmission, or the transmission, which I think is important for this age, or maybe any age. So I've called it the basic foundational understandings. And the first one is that delusional beliefs and lack of understanding of natural or moral law are the root causes of avoidable suffering. Obviously, this is just my language, my way of understanding this. So it's saying that, you know, there is an identifiable root cause. Because obviously once you can diagnose that, then you can move on to the solution. So the second one of these foundational understandings is only through widespread understanding of natural law can a free and moral world manifest. So it's saying there isn't another option, there isn't a plan B. There's a lot of distractions and ways that we think.
Yay! So yeah, let's maybe continue with the foundational understandings here. So yeah, number 2, which is about the understanding of that the only way to manifest freedom is through understanding natural law, and that's a big claim. Freedom is this thing that most people say they want, but a lot of different people have different takes on it, and this claim that the only way to get there is through understanding natural law is something that we share as a view in this forum, the Europa Natural Law Forum. And the reason for that is that we see the cause of the manifested condition we find ourselves in to be ignorance of natural law. So if the cause for human slavery is ignorance of natural law, meaning the way that nature operates, the way nature creates, gives us the results of our actions, then the solution to that is the solution to the ignorance of natural law must be knowledge, must be educating ourselves and other people about it. But of course, that does trigger some people, and because it can have this kind of arrogant attitude that we're the ones to go out and spread the message of the truth. That does sound very cultish. So again, that's a topic for this discussion: is are we in a cult? And I think we maybe if Derek can make the slide bigger, perfect. We can also speak about some of the other foundational understandings. So number 4, we didn't take number 3. Number 3 is that knowing natural law, one is not like a saint. One does not make one special. It just means that now one has to share that understanding, or like to attempt for the best one can to help other people understand it. And that's why also, again, as I was saying, it can seem as though one is trying to convert other people. And then number 4 is that this teacher that we're speaking of, Mark Passio, is not the arbiter of truth, or like an authority or an idol. Like, we're not fans of this person. We're not like obsessed with him. But that's just a claim, maybe, you know, like people can hear us mention him so many times. They'll be like, yeah, you say that, but to me, you seem like a fan club. You seem like he's the authority, or he's like your idol. So that's again the theme for this this conversation we're having today. I don't know. Should I continue taking these other foundational understandings? What do you guys say?
I mean, yeah, if you want, or if you just want to rifle through them, people, it's already up there for people to look at. But yeah, Marcus, unless you wanted, you had a burning desire to say something right now.
Yeah, if you want, you can continue, or else I tell my story about the military in Austria. I don't know what do you want, Oscar? Should I start talking?
Yeah, I was just continuing a bit on
Yeah.
Nemo's like thing of
Mhm.
speaking about these foundational understandings. But to be
Yeah,
honest, I
sure.
don't really know why he was doing it. I think maybe I covered the essence of it, maybe, right? Which
Mhm.
is
Okay.
Word, yeah, just laying the
so I think
foundation.
you should go ahead if you
Okay,
want to
sure.
share your story. That would be awesome.
Sure. Yeah, the basic thing is the main thing of a cult is centralization of power. So cults always will start like they meet each other, and they have some kind of occult techniques they use to indoctrinate you. First, it starts like harmless, but it gets stricter and stricter, and before you know it, you are really a part of them, and it's hard to leave them. So this is not something we see when it comes to all this community around Mark Passio. I was in a cult. I used to be in a cult because in Austria, every male has to serve in the military. So there's a compulsory military service in Austria for about 6 months. There are technically two options. First option is the easy one. When you are lazy, you just go to the military for 6 months. The second thing is you serve the government for 9 months, but then you have to do like some civil services, like I don't know, delivering, working for an organization who delivers like meals to elder people living in nursing homes, for example. But most people choose the military because it's shorter. It's just 6 months, but you have to work like a slave there. You get like 300 euros per month for basically working up to 24 hours a day to serve in the military. It's crazy. Every other organization or company, if they do that, they would see they would have to go like to the court, because that would be illegal to do that. But it's okay when the government called the God called government does it. It's totally absurd. Yeah. What are these techniques of a cult? Derek, could you please open the pictures? Yeah. First step, of course, is the isolation step. When I was in the military, there was some kind of, it's called like Grundausbildung. That's like the basic training. It's the main phase of the indoctrination. There, in this time, in these 2 months, they were very strict to us. So they isolate us like physically. So we weren't allowed to leave the barracks from Monday up to Friday in the late afternoon. We had to live there in the barracks and do our duty basically. And yeah, of course, it is important to do that step for a cult because there should be no chance to that your ears as a recruit, that your ears reach some words of reasons. Yeah. Because when you hear other opinions, maybe you can like how to say that, like to avoid all these brain control techniques and get out of the cult. That's why it's important that you are just surrounded by from the other cult members. Yeah. And yeah, like it's here a demonization of outsiders. Yeah, we made also like a lot of fun during the military times. Like the civilians, they are just stupid, and yeah, it was typically like PASSIO said it on his presentation. It's really my experience too. So yeah,
For the record, these slides that we're seeing right now are from this presentation, which is named "The Cult of Ultimate Evil."
Exactly. This presentation, I also translated it into German. It's called Der Kult des ultimativen Bösen in German. Okay, the second step, of course, is conformity. It's exactly this picture. Yeah, you see, like they have to destroy all the individuality in a cult. That's why you often see the people like in the same color, in the same dresses, not alone in police and military, but also like when you look at gurus, for example, when everyone like wears red, like Osho had this, the cult around Osho also had this, everyone had to wear like red clothes. Yeah, they oftentimes also tell you like they do this to destroy your personality, so your mind gets collectivized basically. Yeah, and everyone speaks like the same and behaves the same. Yeah, that's conformity. It's very important, so that we separate us also with our appearance from the outsiders, so to say, from the civilians. Okay, the next step would be the indoctrination. Yeah, the military at my time, it was about 2013 when I was in the military, and the government just told us what to do, like in a strict schedule. Yeah. There wasn't any time to think about anything else. We just thought, yeah, we have to do like this. And after that, yeah, then we have to go to training. And then at this time, we will go and eat something on the buffet. And so everything, the government dictates everything. Your whole day is planned through, basically. And yeah, this repetitive behaviors, yeah, we have like to march in with the same rhythm, yeah, in step, yeah, to do this, all these formations. Yeah, it's sometimes it's still in my head because it's still a trauma in my unconsciousness, because they hammered in this 6 months in my head, basically. Yeah, and of course, these obstacle courses, they were very, very tough, and we have to do them like regularly. And yeah, of course, this when we marched, we also like sang songs. Even some songs which were very controversial because they had like lyrics where we sang about other countries, like we occupied them basically, because they used to be like a part of Austria, but now not anymore. Yeah. And the last
Those
step,
were the good old days.
yeah, the good old days. Yeah, sure. And the last step, of course, is the trauma phase. There are two phases of it. First is a physical one, because the first step, you have to break a recruit physically. You give him like high like not healthy food. Yeah, it's very boring food. It's totally overcooked. There are no nutritions in it anymore. So this will damage your brain basically at this time. So it's easier for you to follow just the orders because your body is not in perfect health condition. Yeah, because of this rigorous schedules, we also got very low sleep times, and they also surprised us with a very, very loud and traumatizing alarm during the night. And then we had to go like the hall and yeah, be ready for everything and wait for our commands, even if we were still like half sleepy, not even conscious. And of course, we felt like, because it was so shocking, our whole body just moved like this, and yeah, it was really traumatizing. And the last part is trauma. Is like a psychological one, because they, especially at the basic training, the first 2 months in the military, they just yell at you like all the time. And even if you try your best, it was never enough for them. You still were just a piece of crap basically for them. It's you try your best, but it was totally frustrating. Yeah. And always this atmosphere of what comes next. Oh, I hope we do not go to the battlefield exercises, because this means like we have to work for up to 24 hours through. It was really nobody liked the battlefield basically. Yeah. This was like my personal experience during the military, and that's where you really know that's a real cult. And it's not just like in the pictures. It's not only the military or the police. These are just the modern forms of cults. But it also fits with school, for example, even if it's more a softer version of it. But they indoctrinate you like during years, not only 6 months, like in my case. Yeah, that was everything for now. I wanted to explain.
Right on. Thank you, Markus.
Markus, so you're saying you were in a cult,
Yeah.
and you're saying that cult was being recruited in the state army, or like in the standing army. And you're also saying that those methods, those techniques that were being used, they are also somewhat used in public education.
Yeah.
Can you tie it into the conversation that about how, like, because you're saying that those techniques are not used in the natural law community?
No, you do not have to wake up like very early if you do not want to, no one separates you from the others. Like you are surrounded just with other cult members. No one forces you, basically. You are not only allowed to listen to other sources or to read other sources, but you even we told you like you should try to read different kind of sources.
But we all
Yeah.
have to have a podcast, Marcus.
Yeah, that's sure, but I
You
do
have to
not have to
conform.
there is no punishment if I'm not joining it. I do it like because I want to. In the military or in the school system, I had to go, or policemen will come to my house and maybe kidnap my family or even myself and put me in jail and yeah, etc.
But there's
Yeah,
degrees, isn't there?
very much.
Because when I think of a cult, it's you know, it's more the sort of there is a voluntary element. You know, it's like that people join a cult. You know, I mean, I'm saying this, and it's like I don't know if I really know anyone that has joined a cult quite in that way. But it's obviously this is what people tend to think of. I mean, I guess there are maybe like kind of low level cults that I could think of that are, or things that have a cultish element, you know, that I know people have got involved in. Like, and there's a lot of, it can be quite subtle, you know, there's a sort of, even like a clique can have that kind of aspect, you know, that people are kind of, we're in, you're not in, we have a certain language, you know, we have a way. I mean, I know maybe it's not exactly what we're talking about, but it all kind of ties into the same kind of dynamics, because I think there's this kind of there is a psychology around it. I mean, a lot of it's just around being in a group, you know, and the fear of the wanting to be in a group, wanting to have clarity in your life, wanting to have a purpose, and yeah, these kind of things, these are like psychological drivers, aren't they, which feed into this dynamic, I guess. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, Vuk, I want to get you on. I've got Alpha Vuk in the house.
Hey,
I just
Vuk.
wanted to spit my piece for once, because yeah, going over the foundational things, and like people throw out the word cult as if they actually know what the fuck it actually fucking means. You know, they're using the word out of context a lot of times, kind of like how we mentioned last episode. People throw out the word phobia for, you know, it's just, you see people trying to write other people off as like, oh, they're just in some cult, and then you brush it aside and tra-la-la, that kind of stuff. But you know, people got to ask themselves, like, are we in a cult? So answer some questions about it, like how does it all pertain to, you know, attributes of a cult, characteristics of it, and all that stuff, and the members within it, and the hierarchy, chain of command, if there even is one, and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go
Let's
over.
define.
Yeah, you can do that if you want. I'm just going to go over the notes that I shared in the group chat the other day. You know, just ask simple questions, you know, about whatever group or concept or whatever you think is tied to some cults, you know. Is it trying to control or limit the opinions and actions of others? Does this cult respect the free will choices of others and the bodily autonomy of others? And do they, you know, is there any kind of coercion, mandatory anythings? Are they obligated to do whatever, right? And this is where people can find the gray areas of things, just because, yeah, the cultish side and those demands or whatever is different than what Nemo kind of has in others that just are laying out like guidelines and principles to adhere to. You know, in the end, you know, we still respect people's free will choice, yet we still want to hold people accountable to a good standard, right? Of just common sense, consciousness type of thing, you know. being a decent human being, not being a dick on the chats or whatever the fuck, right? Or to like other people rather, so things to consider. And yeah, you're free to leave anytime, right? There's no strings attached. Take that into consideration when labeling something a cult and that kind of stuff. Is there a specific world view being forced upon, the followers? And yeah, we can take it through the trivium process to break it down. Who, what, where, when, why. And then, wow, figure it out. Clarity. This is fucking... And we go over this stuff a lot because a lot of people still don't fucking get it. And we hear people talking shit about us as if we're in a cult or whatever the fuck, because we follow specific people, teachers, truth speakers, whatever. But you can follow a common thread of just the concept of wanting sovereignty for ourselves and other people and other life upon this planet, because we're in a pretty draconian state of affairs in a lot of different ways. In whatever fucking country, it's a different flavor, different smell, and whatever the fucking hell. Politics and all that stuff. And yeah, politics is, you see a crazy cultish mentality behind that. And I like what Mario West says. Let's take it back to the first cult we're even born into, which could be your parents, especially if they are unconscious. And so you're getting born into, a family dynamic. Well, let's just make it simple, and the mother and father. And the kid has to be brought up, and they're raised through whatever level of consciousness that their parents are at, and might get programmed through the programming and conditioning from social fucking engineers to be more of a docile human being, unfortunately, and be more susceptible to fall into this groupthink and all these things. And yeah, you see, take echo chambers, for example, right? You can see cultish mentality and kind of like herd mentality, if you will, and cultish behaviors within said echo chamber. But it doesn't mean like said echo chamber is a cult per se. And Nemo, yeah, you mentioned like no one necessarily, joins a cult. Like, hey, you know what? My life is lacking meaning. I got to join a cult or something. Like, no, they think they're joining, some kind of fraternity or meetup group, hangout group, even like Freemasonry, boys club, whatever the fuck, men's club if you want. Sorry, not trying to offend. But no one goes in there thinking that it's a cult from the get-go, usually, you know what I mean? So those are things to consider. And yeah, we say in the media, there's, people that have a cultish following of, celebrity worship and all that stuff. And yeah, there's like movies and possible songs that are just classics, and they call it a cult classic, right? So yeah. We have to figure out, what's controlling us and our thoughts, and figure out if we have been indoctrinated into whatever cult or cult mentality before, we start, pointing the finger at other fucking people sometimes. Luke, what's cracking, man?
Yeah, thanks for your patience, and it's the power of reboot, even on the Mac. It works. And yeah, what came to my mind is isn't government a cult? You have to like pay taxes, and like the Catholic Church at some point in time was very cultish, like Inquisition and the conquistadores. And yeah, I think the big distinction is that has to be pointed out is that a cult is violent against their own members, as we heard from Markus' explanation with physical and psychological trauma, but it is also an even more like traumatic and harmful to outsiders. And in like our case, or in the case of the One Great Work warriors and networkers and all the people that try to get the information out, is more like the opposite, because I guess at least most of us, if not all of us, do understand the non-aggression principle and the self-defense principle. So we wouldn't like harm anybody without like having a real need, like self-defense or something like that. But we have to get the word out, and like when you're thinking sanely, usually you would if you like stepped into a trap, then you would, and you get out of the trap, you would like when you return to your village or something like that, or your tribe or anything, you would say, hey, this is how it went down, and this is what happened, and I got stuck into this and lost a year or something like that, being in this mental trap, more or less. And I had to do this and that to get out of this, and to return to like quote unquote sanity. I think this is important to tell from those who were in cults, and I think we have at least one ex-cult member, ex-policeman in the One Great Work Network. And I heard his story, and this is really impressive. Yeah, I think more people have to do it, and I guess I hope so that more people really do have this kind of thought to like. I guess many people are feel trapped in our society, in our quote unquote civilization, because they like realize that they are part of a dark force, like the empire. And so yeah, this is a dilemma in our Western world, but I think it's really important to get the definitions and the thinking straight first, and really like free your mind and your spirit first, and your ass will follow then. So it is really important to point out the real cults, who are our like natural enemy, like we as individual living being just trying to be left alone and doing his or her thing, and the cult members are the ones that won't leave you alone, and the like issue starts with self-defense, and that can be kind of problematic, especially with sad cults like police, military, government. So yeah, I think we have a lot to resolve in our minds to get rid of it, and we have to have the courage. More people have to have the courage to speak like the truth to those people and give them the right information so they can unwrap their mind. And for example, I put under the translations when Mark like goes off on a rant about police, that in subtitles that the dogs could be the heroes of the story if they would get who they should bite, like when they get an order to bite that they shouldn't bite, like whom the owner targets him to, but to bite the owner, and that could be like this could give interesting consequences and effects, but yeah, we'll have to see, I guess. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so Nemo, we lost you for a second, and obviously for those listening, Oscar did a great job of just carrying on with what you were getting at with and that's pretty much the pinned message that's in the Europa Natural Law Telegram chat, I believe, right? So
yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. I seem to have a good signal, but don't know. So yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was just running through that because I kind of felt like yeah, really, I was just kind of making the point that for me, that's the as I understand it, that's the core understanding that we all kind of share, that we all kind of, that brings us all together. You know, maybe other people have a different view, and I know there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more kind of tangents to it, but yeah, just to sort of recap, it's really this idea, like, you know, it's ignorance and delusion and lack of understanding. That's the problem in our world, and it's only through increasing understanding that we can therefore heal our situation. And then once you understand that, it's, you know, it's on you. If you really understand it, then you have to start acting, and that brings in another you know, to spread that message, which is basically about natural law, moral behavior, actual objective morality. And there's another, you know, aspect which I don't know if Oscar covered, because obviously I was cut off, but there's a part in there where I say, well, Mark Passio is an incomparable source of information, but he's not an infallible authority or idol, and he wouldn't want to be perceived as that, and he always states that very clearly in his work, you know. So yeah, that was just to sort of round off that part. But
you know,
there is
soundbite. I'm not your fucking guru, okay?
yeah, exactly, yeah. But he's but yeah, there is this kind of aspect, you know, there is inherent in that, those kind of 3 points, which is my kind of distillation. I don't know, maybe people are welcome to kind of say whatever they want about that, of course, because we're not a cult. But the, you know, the third point about teaching, or doing your best to teach, to spread the, you know, awareness, is that does kind of equate with the other aspect of a cult, you know, an aspect of a cult. So there are these this is the kind of thing, and we touched on this in a discussion, I think, after the show last week, that you have to kind of acknowledge that it's like you can't say, oh, cults are bad, so everything that a cult does is bad, so therefore anything that smells a bit like that has got to be bad. Because proselytizing, you know, trying to teach a message, well, there, yeah, exactly, nice, that's good. Yeah, we brainwash people into thinking for themselves. Yeah, that's the thing. Proselytizing is not inherently bad, you know. It's that. So there's a balance, isn't there, to be struck about, like, well, you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, it's like you have to understand, well, if what you're proselytizing is genuine, is of genuine value, then that's of value. But if you're trying to bring people into, you know, because I think cults, when we say the word cult, it's sort of a bit like some sort of pyramid scheme I feel like, in a kind of like, energetically speaking, it's like you're kind of taking people's time and energy into this kind of system, and then it all kind of goes up to this leader sort of thing somehow, and becomes a kind of self-enclosed kind of system. I don't know, I'm just riffing really, but yeah, that's to sort of vaguely kind of round up what I think, because I spoke for quite a while before realizing, because I was reading off another tab, so I didn't realize that I'd been cut off for quite a while, which was quite amusing. But anyway, I'm back now. So yeah, anyone else want to jump in? Oscar,
yeah, I was going to say Oscar, because yeah, you brought the goods to the table. I appreciate you sharing the slides and all that.
So I think I want to go back to the question of what is a cult. I think it was really cool of you to go through the techniques of a cult, Markus, and share your story. And again, those slides, and this slide as well here, is from a presentation called The Cult of Ultimate Evil, and it's all about order followers in the police and the military. And you hinted at also, Markus, that some of these techniques are also techniques that one can see in the education system. But when people think of a cult, they don't think of the public school system. They don't think of the police and the military. People have different ideas of what a cult is. Book, you also shared the definition that Mark provides in this presentation. So this is a slide here where Mark Passio starts off by saying these are images of what people often imagine when thinking of a cult. Some people meeting in the woods or in a mansion, and they're all wearing masks, and it's all very blatant, very obviously that there's something unusual is happening here. This is not the behavior that most people would engage in, and that's because that's one of the definitions of what a cult is that it's very unorthodox behavior. It's behavior that is unusual. It's like the majority of people don't engage in it. That's one of the ways that you could describe a cult. Is like you got those weirdos over there, and they're all licking toads or something, and we don't do that generally, right? But yeah, Vuk, you were saying that the definition that you really think is good is emphasizing that a cult espouses beliefs that are dangerous not only to the lives of the members of the cult, but also to the members that are not in the cult. And that's where you can see that the order followers of police and military, well, this applies. And you were also speaking of how a government can have that a government is something where that definition also applies. That the belief in government is also dangerous to people who don't believe in government. But again, I think answering what a cult is doesn't have to be something where we say that it's just this. It's just this definition that Mark has provided. I think it's a very good definition, and I think it's not something I would want to brush off or like say forget about that. But I think it's worth mentioning also some other ways of defining a cult. So I was looking at different dictionaries and also just actually looking at Wikipedia, because they can you can find sometimes some simple definitions that are working. But yeah, I had some from different dictionaries, and I'd like to share a few of those. So one definition is that a cult is like great devotion, devoting yourself to a person, an idea, an object, a movement, or work, such as like a film or a book. And I think that definition actually is very interesting, because devoting oneself, choosing to sacrifice one's time, or like choosing to spend one's energy to a certain idea or a certain movement or some work. I think actually natural law community in some way actually is that it is devoting itself to the idea that morality is objective, that the nature is the laws of nature are more important to understand than the man-made laws, because the laws of nature are not based on moral relativism, are not based on the opinions of men. They're not just scribbles on paper or dictates. They're not based on jurisdiction, the belief that we get to decide what is right and wrong. So that's an idea that the natural law is trying to communicate, that there's more legitimacy, more validity to the laws of nature, and the people who devote themselves to that, well, to some people that might seem like a very odd thing to do. Like, why would you devote yourself to this idea? Like, why not just act normally or like engage in normal behavior? That's another definition of what a cult is that it's this unorthodox movement. It's like something that the majority of people don't engage in. So Yeah, I'll share another one. First of all, I think when defining things, it's also very interesting to look at the etymology of words. There's a really cool website for that called ETYMO online, Etym Online. So yeah, etymology and online put together. There's a website called etymonline.com where you can find etymologies. You can also find etymologies in other dictionaries. But if you're just only looking for the etymology of a word, that's a cool website to check out. And if you check out the word cult, well, you'll find that its etymology or like its origin comes from Latin, and it's a word cultus, which is all about care and labor and cultivation, culture, worship, and reverence. So that's quite a lot there. So if you think about that originally it was about tending something or cultivating something, for example, like tilling the soil, like you're cultivating something or like you're growing something, then I think personally, I think that is relevant to something like culture. Culture is like the values that we are cultivating together, that we're nourishing. So every time you say thank you to someone because they're doing some work, well, you're cultivating the value of that work. You're saying, yo, that work is awesome. Thank you for having learned that skill and contributing to that with society. Or someone is singing a song and you're sharing that song with someone else, or you're singing it, that, well, you're partaking in culture, you're cultivating something. That might sound a bit weird. I get that, but I personally think it makes sense. But it's also the worship and the reverence of something, right? It's also the like what people might think of a cult is like you're submitting, right? You're submitting to as we were saying before, like an idea or a person. And that is an interesting thing, because there are charismatic leaders, and often, yeah, we were speaking of it before, in politics you'll have charismatic leaders, but it's not only in politics. You can have actors, you can have musicians, or spiritual teachers. And whether or not you think Mark Passio is charismatic, I guess that's you. I'm personally admit I like someone who engages that part of themselves, the anger part, that can express that in an intense way. But that's not for everyone. I personally enjoy it because I feel a lot of people are pacified, and a big part of my life I've been encouraged to kind of not express anger, because that was seen as aggressive. And it probably was. Like, I was probably a pain in the ass and being intense and maybe doing a lot of ad hominem attacks on people, right? But I think anger is something that I find charismatic, and that is something I think maybe other people also would find in the Mark Passio, but probably a lot of people will not. And yes, even though he says he does not want a fan club, he does not want to be a leader in the sense of like having fans or followers, that doesn't mean he doesn't have them. Like, there are people who will see him as like an arbiter of truth. And I don't think a community that is all about opposing cults should turn a blind eye to the fact that people like that, or maybe more than people, like, the mentality of that is not something we can completely divorce from ourselves. It's a mentality that can sneak in even in ourselves, but also just the people we're associating with. This mentality of having an external arbiter of truth, or like an external judge, or like a truth sayer, instead of discerning ourselves, which is a laborious process. There you can also say that's something you got to cultivate, something you got to develop, your ability to think. And that's not something you like. I'm still trying to learn it, because I feel the way I was taught in school doesn't necessarily completely equate to learning how to think, even though some of the things I learned are very valuable still to this day. I'm sorry, I'm ranting a bit here, but yeah, what is a cult? I think the definition that you were mentioning, Vuk, is a very good one in the context of saying this is where you can see a different, the word has a specific meaning, and it's a valuable meaning to use. A cult is like an organization or a system that espouses beliefs where these beliefs are dangerous to the other people. So one thing is, me and my friends, we believe in a unicorn called Jerry, and this unicorn loves us very much. Well, that's cool. But as soon as we believe that if people don't accept the unicorn Jerry's love into their hearts, that means that they're beyond redemption and they need to be punished, or something along those lines. Well, you can see how our belief system might become very dangerous to people who have never heard of the unicorn Jerry, or just don't care about him, or have thought about it, considered the idea, and just don't really think it makes sense, or don't accept that for themselves. So I know I went a bit the etymology and tried to share a bit, and I think it is very interesting. Just to I enjoyed looking into what the word cult is, and or what it means, like how it can be defined differently. And I might not even have shared that much, but I think it is really interesting to read about. I can encourage people to do that for themselves. Also, maybe find like, if you want, a comment and share your perception of it. One way I've heard the word cult also used in a different context is in the mystery traditions, or the schools of consciousness in ancient times, where you would have a cult of Isis, for example, like an Egyptian goddess, or you would have the cult of the Brahmins, or the in Persia you would have maybe the, like, you'll have different cults, in the sense that you'll have different sects of, or like priesthoods, you could say, or like like ways of systems of initiation, where an initiate would be taken in and be taught, educated on knowledge of the psychology of human beings, and the macrocosmic, like the astro plane, like the astrophysics or the astrotheology and so on. So that's another way I found the word being used. And I guess what I'm trying to come at is, when we think about the word cult, what do we actually mean? And when I've had people ask me, or like kind of tell me, I think you're in a cult, or like it does seem like you're yours, when you speak of natural law, when you speak of objective morality and so on, it seems kind of like you're it's very religious, the way you speak of it. I think it's very interesting, and I don't want to say you just don't understand what this definition here of that it's a system that espouses beliefs that are dangerous to other people, because they might mean something that actually makes sense. They might mean you seem awfully devoted to this idea, or my point is, by engaging with them and asking them, what is it that you mean with this word, it can become more clear to them and to me what they mean. And maybe they find, actually, it's not really that they think it's religious. They find better words to formulate themselves, or they might think that. I think it's very interesting, this cult whole topic. And if I can share like a meme on the topic, I'd love to share this passage from a book by the Club of Rome, and it's from a book written in 1991 called The First Global Revolution, I think. And I'll read the quote here. It's from a passage about the common enemy of humanity is man. In searching for a common enemy against whom we can unite, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. In their totality and their interactions, these phenomena do constitute a common threat, which must be confronted by everyone together. But in designating these dangers as the enemy, we fall into the trap, which we have already warned readers about, namely mistaking symptoms for causes. That's interesting. All these dangers are caused by human intervention in natural processes, and it is only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. The reason I'm sharing this quote is because I find that the mentality that I generally meet in the world is a very anti-human worldview, and I've espoused that belief to myself, and I think that is a belief that is dangerous to other people. When we dehumanize ourselves, or like when we do not value human beings, when we think human beings are bad or a problem, there's too many of them, we're like a virus, we're like a cancer, and so on and so on. When we believe human beings are in reality to be exterminated and we should have less of them, then we have a very anti-human worldview, which I think can be also described as a cult. And it's also related when we're speaking of governments being a cult. It has like this circular logic as well, of like human beings are bad, therefore we need government, which is made up of human beings that are bad. And you see what I'm getting at. It's like circular logic. If human beings are bad, then we need to control them. And it's this whole idea of, it's this whole poisonous worldview of human nature, of being that we're evil beings. And that's not to say that one should jump over to the opposite of that, we're good beings and we'll always do the right thing, because that would be turning an eye to evil. So, I don't know. Maybe that was a bit random to share this quote. I just thought that was also related in a way that you can have this kind of death cult or you can have this really hatred for men, for having done so much damage, for having engaged in so many wars in history and so on. Thanks for letting me speak so long, guys.
No worries. It's fascinating. Real quick, because if people don't know what the Club of Rome is, it's a great book. John Coleman was the author, and I think he's like ex CIA type of whatever, like deep in these think tanks, if you will, whatever. Think of Tavistock and that kind of stuff. And yeah, like the social engineers and the controllers and puppet string pullers, they're trying to implement these things, and yeah, they're passing off this poisonous worldview on the people, and that's why we have right now like the climate change cult mentality behind these things, nature, because they've flipped the narrative and threw out so much greenwashing propaganda and all the whole nine. But yeah, Nemo, I'll pass it to you because we're at an hour and all that jazz, so that's good, man.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, I just was going to chuck in a quote that I found that I heard the other day, which does relate to that same narrative. It's this guy that was very involved in one of the cultish organizations that's they kind of disappeared because I think they just really weren't catching on. So they tried a different name and all of that. But this is a quote from him. He says, "What I want you to do is enter that despair, that self-contempt, that confusion, that feeling of being lost. I want you to look into hell." That's the guiding philosophy behind Extinction Rebellion. It's kind of quite interesting philosophy. And it caught on. Of course, people love this kind of like end of the world kind of thing. you know, and there is an aspect of that in, you know, within this within the natural law. You know, it's easy to have this millenarian kind of thing, you know, like the end of the world is coming, is here, and because of this reason or that reason, that's why we have to act. And it's a kind of like, there's a reality to it. There's a kind of, you know, there's different levels to all of this stuff, I guess. And it is an interesting kind of circular discussion, because like Oscar was saying, there's things that come around, or like I said, you know, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like, you can't, you know, talking about a good idea, trying to promote an idea is not inherently bad, you know. So it's like, it's and having kind of religious fervor about something, you know, is not inherently bad. Or being, in quotes, religious, you know, religiosity has different connotations, you know. It's not just all one way. So there's been loads of activity actually on the chat today, but anyway, that's that. I've already said in previous shows, I'm not really able to sort of like juggle all of that. Plus, as you've noticed, I've had serious technical issues this time, so I've been in and out. I've missed some of the discussion, but yeah, we're past an hour, so let's have if anyone's got short closing remarks, let's have them now, and then we'll finish up.
Yeah,
Markus, we haven't heard from you in a minute. Did you have anything else you wanted to add in real quick? And Vuk, yeah, I definitely want to hear what you got to say. I'll go last, but yeah. Anyone, fellas?
I think it's important to really be honest with oneself, and to look to if the actions you're doing really result in harm of other sentient beings. You know, I really recommend the real 7 Deadly Sins lecture by MARKUS, and it's and I think you're right, Nemo, to like teach other things that are helpful is well and should be done, but to like teach, quote unquote, ideas and behaviors, for example, that will result in harm to like the one you are teaching or other people is not good, and should be like yeah, it should be left to like special occasions or something, like self-defense also. But I think the society is sick of peddling bad thoughts and false informations, and I think the people are hungering for truth. So yeah, that's why it's so important to point out who are the people who are really like hurting yourself and yeah, committing sins to you, like real universal sins unto you, who is stealing your money, who is stealing your earnings, etc. So yeah, but we have to be honest to ourselves while answering.
Yeah, maybe I have also just a few last words, because alone this discussion on this episode was very interesting for me, because in a cult, the cult will always try to like shut down your consciousness, like the ability to think for yourself. But for example, this level of self-reflection I have never seen elsewhere. It's totally interesting. Even like to say, are we even in a cult? Yeah, I thought like, no, totally not. And suddenly it's like, yeah, maybe there are some small elements to it, so it's totally expanded like my mind, and I'm excited to even research more about these topics and go deeper to it. And in the military or in the school system, I was just glad that when I do not have to do homeworks or like follow the schedule or whatever. Just that the cults just left me alone for a while. So yeah, but thank you for the topic. It was really interesting and for me.
Word, yeah. Sorry about that. Damn. In conclusion, yeah, just, you know, our example of today, and, you know, a great influencer and teacher of natural law, and, you know, a big reason why some of us are doing the work that we're doing. Mark Passio, he's not a fucking cult leader. And this is the thing, you know, any individual, think of, you know, whatever celebrity, pick up a rock and throw it at some, you know, it doesn't fucking matter. They can garner a following, and within that following, people develop a cult-like mentality and behavior just out of their own fervor and, you know, all the stuff, the fanboy fanatic type of shit, you know. So yeah, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as all said. And yeah, it's one thing to shoot the messenger, it's another to shoot the message. And, you know, like, you have to, it all just goes back to having that open mind, open heart, and trying to just view objective truth as it is. And people have their own articulation of the truths in all these things. And you know, we can hold ourselves accountable, and we can build each other up in the process as well. Instead of, you know, cutting people down, we got to get out of the bucket full of crabs, you know, because yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, and many hands make that work a little lighter. And keeping your heart as light as a feather helps out during the endeavor, no matter the motherfucking weather. And that's word up to Brandon Spencer. Anyways, that's all.
Any other last thoughts?
I thought that was really interesting, bringing that idiom of not shooting the messenger, Derek, because I think that is also something I want to remind myself of, is that the message should not be check out this other teacher or this other person teaching, like how don't check out them, even though that is a great way. I've always loved when people use their influence like that, when they have people's attention, say, yo, check out this person, check out this person, look at all these amazing individuals doing great work. But the message should always be, look within, ask yourself these questions, develop self-respect, build a strong foundation in your thinking and in your learning journey, and apply that to your life, and teach yourself, become yourself a messenger. That's, I think, why maybe we're asked sometimes this question, are we in a cult, is because I guess we want to spread a message that and that thing in itself of wanting to spread a message, as you pointed out, Nemo, in conversations, is, it can seem very evangelical, right? We're going out into the world with a mission. We're gonna teach people about this thing, and some people do it in a much more chill way, like they just make a drawing and give someone that drawing, and some people, they got the fucking megaphone, right? They're like screaming into it. Yeah, I thought that was a really good idiom to bring up. So thanks for that, and yeah, thank you everybody for speaking about this topic. I feel like you, Marcus. It was super interesting to research.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. And yeah, to all the people watching and people in the chat, lots of stuff there going on, loads of comments. I'm not sure if I figured out how to keep the live chat going. So if there's something you want, because there was a couple of questions there, maybe put them in the actual comments under the video if you want me to see it, because I think this might disappear when I haven't figured out that bit. I think I'm missing a setting or something, so just be aware of that. But someone was asking about how natural law has I think, improved our lives, bettered our lives, or something like that. And which is a kind of interesting question. It's quite an interesting point of view. Anyway, that made me think a little bit. But yeah, it's very difficult to focus on that whilst we're also doing this, and I'm listening to everyone, and I'm being cut off by the internet. But nonetheless, thank you everyone, and we'll be back next week. Please do like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. It obviously makes a huge difference, and it looks like the ENL channel is just sneaking ahead of my personal channel, so might hit 100 before I do on my own channel, but that's that, I guess. We'll see how that race goes. Anyway, yeah, you can do all that stuff. Thanks to everyone here. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes. A little just bit of news, I'd say, because I think, you know, people that have there, I know there are people that have watched like all the shows and stuff, you know, so just to say, I thought I'd just mention that Yvonne and Tommy, they've both kind of decided to like take a bit of a back seat for the moment, but I'm sure they'll both be back. And in like the most maddest thing happened is that I actually met Yvonne in real life the other day, yesterday even. So, which was a first for the whole Telegram group and everything. That was kind of, it was crazy and great. It was like very brief, but, and I met also John, who designed our wonderful logo. So
Awesome.
Thanks to all the people doing all the stuff behind the scenes and the people contributing to the chat. Chat's been lively, it always is, and link for that is in the description. Sorry to waffle on a bit at the end. That's basically it. Thanks, guys. Until next time, I'm Nemo Jones, reporting for Beauty, and I look forward to seeing you all next time on Europa Natural Law.